Today I'm having coffee with Lawrence Lowe. Lawrence is the music director of the West Virginia Symphony and music director of Symphoria, the orchestra of Central New York in Syracuse. He's worked with lots of great organizations like the Northeastern Pennsylvania Philharmonic, Pittsburgh Symphony, Dallas Symphony, Colorado Symphony, among others. I've never met Lawrence before, but I thought it'd be nice to get to know him over a cup of coffee. Hey Larry, how are you?
Good. How are you, Silas? Nice to
Um,
meet you.
yeah, it's really nice to meet you. One of the things that I love about this web series I'm doing is that I'm getting to talk to people I otherwise wouldn't talk to very frequently, and I have a reason to just reach out to somebody I've never met before and say hello. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's a small world. It's amazing. We haven't actually run into each other, in person yet, but I'm sure that will happen.
Well, we have a million friends in common and see each other on Facebook and stuff, and so I feel like I know you already. So it's a little funny to
Yeah.
say nice to meet you. Hey Larry, I'm drinking an espresso this morning. What do you got in your cup?
So I bring an espresso machine, the small kind. If I'm going to be someplace for more than 3 or 4 days, I just bring my machine. And so I have in here. So I saved. So I got up this morning. I had my first double. And I think I had an arpeggio pod and maybe an in vivo lungo pod, and I make it into a cappuccino, and
Okay.
and I drink two of them a day like that in the morning, so 4 shots, which gets me to level. That gets me to like the
I
normal
I think
caffeinated,
I've
like
finally met my
equilibrium.
match. I finally met a conductor who loves espresso as much as I do. That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you saying Nespresso with an N, like the brand Nespresso machine?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, those
yeah,
are cool. Those are good
yeah,
machines. Yeah.
yeah. So our like I've always been an espresso drinker, usually in the form of a cappuccino or a cortado or just straight double espresso. And we had like destroyed machine after machine just because most machines are not, like manual machines are not very good. And then my last machine was a Rencilio Silvia,
Oh,
with the
okay.
brass boiler, really beautiful machine.
Yeah.
And we used that one for years, and I would get a variety of local beans in upstate New York. And then I feel like it was like on a whim. Maybe it was even on like a Pittsburgh Symphony tour or something, where yeah, I do remember in Switzerland, we were in Lucerne. There was an espresso machine in my room, and I just drank all of them, and it was so easy and so amazing and so consistent.
Hmm.
And so I always knew that espresso from an espresso machine would be, consistent and really good. And so we got one, and then ever since we got that, the Rencilio machine that takes 5 times as long to make the coffee has been in the pantry, and I feel really guilty about that. I will take it
Yeah.
back out occasionally, but we're all about the Nespresso these days.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that you take a machine with you when you travel because I'm almost there. But one of the things I love about traveling is checking out new coffee shops.
Right.
But I'm mostly disappointed. I mean, every now and then I find a great coffee shop. Every city's got a great coffee shop, but you might have to try two or three before you find it. And so most of
Right.
the time, I'll go into a place and I'll have an okay espresso and I'll drink it. I'll say, look, I'm glad I found this place, although I wish I just had my espresso machine.
Right. Right. So do you drink straight espresso?
Just straight espresso.
That's
If
how you
I'm
do it.
feeling if I'm feeling, a little crazy, I might have a latte, but mostly just double shot in the
Right.
morning, and then maybe I'll have a second double shot later in the day.
Yeah. Doesn't affect you at night.
I
It
tell
doesn't
you,
affect me.
I
Yeah.
don't drink espresso after, midday most days. But when I'm in Europe, where it's kind of normal, usually you get, especially in Italy, they'll just offer you an espresso after dinner. So I usually take one and I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
I can have a double shot of espresso and go to sleep an hour later, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
means
It
I have a
doesn't.
problem, but
Well, I did hear that even if that happens, like something about the quality of the sleep is not as good, but I can't tell that. Like for me, I can drink it at night after dessert. and go to sleep very easily. And I don't know the difference between that quality of sleep and the one where I didn't drink a late in the day espresso. So I'm not going to worry about it. But it's important for me. Like I stress about it because if I'm going someplace, I have to know where I can go to get coffee if I'm not bringing my machine. And the only way to alleviate that, I mean, I carry it on because I have packed it in like a checked luggage and it like, destroyed just because they're plastic machines.
Right.
So now I bring it on. Like I have my scores in my backpack and I wheel a little carry-on that is just coffee stuff. That's pretty sad.
Love it. I love it. I have met my match. I love this. Amazing. Well, I hope we get to have coffee in person sometime. That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great.
Now, where do you live and where are you right now?
So I live in upstate New York, in the Syracuse area, where I'm music director up there and also music director in West Virginia. And I spend an equal amount of time in both those areas, but right now I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, you're doing some holiday pops concerts with the DSO, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's the first place where I've been where we have an in-person audience.
Oh.
Where there are people in the audience. It's very small, all spread out. Some orchestras do this, some don't. Here they do it. And it's been kind of amazing to walk out and hear applause again, because it's been a long time since that's been something that you experience, much less working with musicians.
Yeah, I can imagine. I did a couple concerts with my university orchestra this semester, and the first one we did a live stream, and it was just weird because musicians know sort of how to act on stage, and when the piece ends, they know how long you stand still and bow and leave. But when the piece ended, there was no applause. And then we just sort of stood there for a moment, and it was strange. Should the orchestra stand? Should I bow? Should we just all walk off the stage? And not having a live audience throws everything a little bit for a loop.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, did it feel like a rehearsal? Or did it feel like, because you knew the audience was there, how did you kind of visualize it?
You've probably done some concerts like this fall as well, but it felt like a concert right up to the point where the piece ended, and then suddenly it felt like it was a run through or something, because we were all dressed for concert and we took the stage in kind of a professional way. We knew the cameras were running and there was a live stream audience, but then at the end of the piece, it was just weird. Didn't know what to do, so we just carried on. That was weird. All right, let's do the next thing then. But usually when there's applause, there's a natural rhythm in the room. You know how long you're supposed to wait before you can make noise again, or turn your page, or rustle your adjust yourself in your seat. And the orchestra just didn't know what to do. And so I recall just saying to them, okay, that's it. Like it's over. Let's do the next thing. And we had to rotate musicians on and off stage as well. And so everyone was kind of standing over here waiting to come on stage, and nobody knew when to come on. Now, if there were applause, you just feel the natural, when it starts to sizzle out, you're like, okay, that's the end of the applause. It's time to do the next thing. But without it, there's no cue.
Yeah, I know. It is. And you're right. I have experienced the same thing. And the way that I've dealt with it personally is I walk out there, no applause. And if I'm bowing, if it's that kind of setup, because some orchestras want like that formality, and some it just starts right with the feed right at the beginning of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
I do like an awkwardly long normal bow to nothing.
Okay.
And I like it. Like I just bow and there's silence, and I relish it, and I wait there, and I don't want to get rushed, because on one hand, there's something poignant about the silence, just given the circumstances. It has a symbolism, and there's also an audience there. We can't see them, but we know that they're there. And, there is a bit of what we're doing is we're honoring whatever, people are tuning in by bowing to them. And so, so I guess I just sort of, I go for it, and I just don't care. That's just the way that I've dealt with it, because it can be totally awkward.
Yeah,
No, it is really awkward. But that's interesting that you say you relish the silence. Is there anything about that silence that you like, or is it just what you said, which is that you're just honoring what's about to happen? And
No, I mean, I think I think what it is, it's that the arts have been silenced for a bit, and in
yeah.
many places it continues to be silent. And to not have the applause has that, I think, that kind of weird poignancy where I feel the magnitude of the situation, the fact that we're so grateful to be performing at all, and the fact that there aren't people there to receive it in some places, like physically in the same space. And so that silence has a lot of meaning to me. And it's not necessarily just, bowing to the people at home, but also just, I think, just I don't know, maybe I read too much into it, but
Mhm.
I feel like there's something kind of powerful about that silence that I'm okay to just kind of boldly
Okay.
launch myself into that situation.
I'm going to meditate on that a little bit because I'm right. Currently, I'm of the opposite mind. And when I am thinking about producing my own live stream concerts, I'm thinking of it like a TV show
Mhm.
and fast cuts and no downtime.
Right.
And I'm thinking
Yeah.
of it like a TV producer and not like a conductor or an artist, maybe. And
Yeah.
so maybe I'm going to think about that because what you just
No,
said is
no, I think,
beautiful.
well, I mean, if you're going to do, if it's not live streamed and you have the ability to cut and paste and then present it online at sort of like a release date, that's what I did in like with the Buffalo Philharmonic. I watched a live stream of the Cincinnati Pops, and that's how they do it. They record the whole thing, and then they do these quick cuts where it
Ah,
just begins with the conductor just going boom, and then and that's
right.
how my concert was. There was no applause even after the cutoff of the piece. It's like a white to maybe an interview, and then goes right back to the next
Oh, yeah.
piece
Okay.
or to an intro. And I think that if you have the ability to edit it, you're not going to want to have all those vast, I don't know. I think in that situation it would be different for me. I'm thinking more of like the live streamed concert where we're performing and the audience is tuning in at that moment, and there's no ability to cut and paste or edit. And in those situations, I don't rush that process of going out there,
Mhm.
bowing, and then
Okay.
starting. But
Yeah, my
I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
yeah, for my so I told you about my live stream concert experience and how awkward we all found it. So for my second
Yeah.
concert of the semester, we decided to record the orchestra, edit it together, and make a concert and then launch it. And it was beneficial for a couple of reasons because when you do a live performance, what you get is what you get. That's what's so exciting.
Yeah.
But when we did our live performance, we went like, that wasn't like, let's do it again. And we just did it
Right.
again, or we did a certain section. And so it ended up being more like a recording session than a concert. And for me, it felt like cheating a little bit. But for my students, it was a really good experience because they'd never done a recording session. They'd never done a like punch in or, like, how are you going to paste these together? And, that was on me to figure it out. And like all of us, I'm getting a little bit better at audio editing and video editing right
Right.
now. But I found that to be a little bit less stressful because we could put out a better product. And then at the end of the day, so I'll tell you what I learned was when we did the live stream, I wasn't really happy with how it came out. So I took that live stream feed and then I edited it into something a little bit better. And then for the next concert, we just did an edited concert. But when I
Mhm.
edited the live stream, it was about 2.5 hours long. 40 minutes was downtime. It's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
time. A
Yeah,
lot.
that is a lot
That's
of time.
that's the time in between pieces. That's the time for the set changes. That's the time for the piano to come on stage and all that stuff. And out of 2.5 hour event, 40 minutes for downtime. It's a lot. Now, if
Yeah.
you have a live audience, people are, either they're going out to get a drink at the bar and they're talking to each other and they're crinkling their gum wrappers and all that stuff that happens. But it was interesting because I never timed it before. I never realized we get as a programmer, you're pretty good at going like it's 72 minutes of music and I'm going to need 4 rehearsals and each rehearsal's this long. But then when the event comes and someone goes, "How long's the concert?" and you're like, "Uh-uh. It's not
Right.
72 minutes.
Right.
It's more like 100 minutes."
Right. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that we deal with that in our live streams in Syracuse is that if there is a set change, for example, we have a chamber music, because there we have dividers between everyone. physical dividers
Okay.
in addition to spacing. And it's live streamed in general, but for example, we had Sarah Davis Buchner played a Mozart piano concerto where we had to have a massive reset, and that portion we pre-recorded. So that kind of served for the musicians as like an intermission. We would do the overture live, cut straight to that. That performance had been the day before, and then the second half symphony was live again. So then there was none of that downtime. There's the piano move would have taken 20 minutes because of all the dividers and our small stage. So that's how we dealt with that. So that was sort of a combination of it where it was mostly that. And then we just put a disclaimer on the screen saying this portion was pre-recorded for musician safety.
Well, that's an ingenious solution. So
Anyway.
part live, part recorded. And okay, so then, I mean, you guys had to hire staff to handle this stuff, right? This is starting to sound complicated.
Right.
Like I'm thinking that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. Wait a second. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. So I need somebody to do that for me.
Yeah. I think every situation is unique, and we have some very thoughtful people up there and the crew and people who are looking for those solutions to make the experience as good as possible while sticking with what we have decided to do, which was attempt to do live stream concerts. And so it's, some combination of that. You've probably heard every possible situation with all your conversations over the summer of what people have been doing.
I have, but like I told you offline, I was really interested to ask you about this because most of the, most conductors are conducting a lot less and all their stuff got canceled, or maybe they're just now starting to figure things out. And a lot of orchestras have come up with the same solution, which is just wear masks and stay far apart. But it's interesting to talk to you because you've been working with, it sounds like that I know of, 4 orchestras. You're the music director at Symphoria, and that they're still doing concerts. You're still doing concerts in West Virginia, is that right?
Yeah, but they just started. So those have just begun happening in November, but we have concerts. We have a holiday concert that we pre-recorded. The November one was live and then rebroadcast statewide on the public television. And then we are doing another live concert and a young people's concert in January. And so, so that one had just started, but like everyone else, the summer was barren.
Right.
I didn't do anything. It was just like planning a lot of meetings and just trying to figure out what to do in the fall, and everything had been canceled.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, I have heard a lot of different scenarios, but I know that you've heard them too. I also thought it was interesting. I don't know if you're, I'm assuming you're a member of the League of American Orchestras, but I got the recent Symphony magazine, and it's what all the orchestras are doing and how to have concerts during pandemic times. And I was thinking to myself, this is a really great magazine issue. I wish it came out 6 months ago.
Yeah, right.
But here's
maybe
all the
some
ideas.
Of those solutions hadn't been thought of. Yeah.
Right. By now we've all figured out. I mean, we all have come up with different solutions, but we figured something out. And I only know one. It's not a person I know very well, but I only know one conductor who the other day was asking, like, "Oh, I have to do a concert. What should I do?" And I thought, man, if you haven't figured this out yet, you are behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Right. Let me just start thinking about this now.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, next week I've got it was a academic conductor where he was like, oh, I've got to have in-person orchestra next week and I don't know what to do. And I thought, dude, at this time it was November. And I thought, man, you've had 6 months to think about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is, I've solved my problem for better or worse. And that is his problem to solve. So you're in Dallas right now. You're guest conducting this weekend, and how big was the audience?
So I'm actually doing 12 concerts while I'm down here.
Okay.
And each concert, so the hall, the Meyerson Symphony Center has seating of 2,000 plus, and we have I think about 200 people in the audience, and they're all very spread apart.
Okay.
And the orchestra is they have COVID testing at the hall every day. So I go in every morning. right before talking to you, I went in there, got my temperature checked. Then now I'm like, okay for the day.
Oh, I thought you were
Tonight,
clubbing last night.
yeah, right. That's last night. And then we get swabbed every single day, and if there are any issues, we'll know about it 24 hours in advance of that service.
Okay.
And so if you're performing the next day, so I was tested this morning, that's because of tomorrow's concert, and I was tested yesterday for tonight's. And yeah, it's been incredible, because the amount, and I know most orchestras don't have the resources to be able to have daily testing like this in-house. So we're fortunate here in Dallas to be able to do that. And because of that, then we have about, I think it's about 5 first violins on down to 1 bass, and pairs of winds, 3 percussion, the full brass, 3 trumpets, organ, harp, keyboard, and they're all kind of, everyone is quite spread apart, and there are dividers between wind musicians. And it's worked out well, and I love performing for the audience. It's very incredible to walk out and hear that applause. But I've been really impressed by how they've been handling the situation here.
And you've done these holiday concerts for the DSO in the past, and so I imagine, like last December, you probably walked out and the hall was packed with a thunderous applause. And
Right.
now, with only 200 people in that enormous hall, is the applause, is it still the same kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very live hall, so the applause sounds kind of like because there are fewer people there, it's a very live applause. And it still feels good. You know, we have no chorus this year. Yeah, last year we walk out and it's just like the hall is just filled. Every concert sold out, and it's definitely different, but it doesn't feel that bad. Like, to have only 200 people clapping, it still sounds very amazing. And I think my bar for what I want to hear when I walk out is very low right now. So to hear any applause is great.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Everything's relative, right?
Yeah.
I suppose last year, if you'd walked out and there were 200 people there, you'd think, what the heck, man?
It would have been bad. Yeah.
But now you're like, wow, 200 people. This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have, at least there at DSO, you said double winds and full brass and things. So were repertoire decisions difficult, or was it more or less the same old holiday program you?
Well, it was evolving, Yeah. So this summer they didn't know what they would be able to do as far as how big an orchestra they would be able to have on the stage and be safe. And the concerts that I've done here, I did one on in November that had maybe a slightly bigger orchestra actually. And these concerts, and this is the biggest the orchestra has been on the stage since they've been playing. Mostly it's been, just like a Beethoven symphony that's more scaled down. And so when we did this concert, we had a lot of new commissions or new arrangements with composers that worked with us to pare down the orchestra to what we needed. And to have that flexibility was great. We had a little bit of time to prepare for that. And so, that remains a challenge. There's a lot of what they would call flexible instrumentation arrangements out there these days. A lot of composers and arrangers are doing that.
Yeah.
As a reaction to what's been happening. It's been very nice to have that, so that most of the parts are still covered, even if you have a different flexible, like we need a B flat instrument playing this, and some low instrument playing this, and here are the string parts, but they can also be played by these instruments. And so here it was a little more custom because we, were able to work with the composers and arrangers months in advance. But that final number that we knew that we were going to have changed slightly even in the fall, so we had to stay reactive and flexible.
Yeah, I've been writing a couple of arrangements for my university orchestra as well, and I thought if I had more time, I was pretty busy in the fall too. I'm grateful that I'm still, still working, not like a lot of our colleagues who are freelancers who are just, in a bad spot. But so I've been pretty busy, but I did think at one point, gosh, if I had more time, I'd be writing a bunch of arrangements of traditional repertoire that people could play with 24 or 20 people. And then you and I both know there's a couple of conductors out there doing that, and they're probably selling a lot or renting a lot of music right now.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had trouble I had to work with an orchestra of about 25 at the university. And so Baroque stuff was easy, and some small classical things. And then I used some of those Schoenberg arrangements of like Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun and those things that all, student conductors know those pieces.
Did you have a harmonium?
I didn't. I wrote the harmonium part for a couple of woodwind players because I had more people than you need to do that arrangement. It worked out really well. It's actually more or less like the Debussy, just a little bit single winds.
Right.
And I used a piano instead of a harp. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But now I've recently been invited to conduct a regional orchestra, and they said propose a program that uses 15 players, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what is there? There's Dumbarton Oaks, there's Appalachian Spring, there's the same three pieces that everyone else will propose, and so I'm a little bit hamstrung in what to do there. Something original, at least.
And is it the same instrumentation for the entire program, or is it just at a time?
Good question. Yeah,
do you know?
I don't know. I don't know, because if it's 15 strings,
so because you can't do the overlap of like Dumbarton Oaks, and then you have your piano in the Appalachian Spring or Appalachian Spring.
Right.
And then you could have like Stravinsky octet or all these kind of random instrumentations that are all within 15 musicians, but all different musicians. Because I was thinking, at one point I was proposing, we'll start off with an all-string thing and we'll use 22 players that are the maximum for X orchestra. And then we'll bring in a brass group and have them do some Gabrielli from opposite sides, socially distanced. And the winds play a serenade, like just kind of everyone waiting in the wings, isolated.
Yeah.
And these are, you have to, if you have the instrument, the ability to hire all those people and isolate everyone backstage and have, like, I guess set changes that don't take that much time, then, you can do that. But I think that's what a lot of people end up doing is like, let's just do strings, and of course there's a huge wealth of repertoire that you can do for just strings.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people's, their budgetary restrictions are one thing that we deal with a lot, conductors. And I hate programming to a budget, but I feel like most of the time I'm programming to a budget.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people are doing string repertoire because they feel like string instruments are safer than woodwind instruments. But the research is mostly saying that that's not the case, that woodwind, brass, string, percussion are all equally safe or equally not safe. Yeah. Fascinating stuff, and crazy times to be solving weird problems in, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Things that you didn't think you'd be having to learn about. Aerosols and distancing and droplets and what to do with, the evaporated moisture from brass instruments. And, there's so many things that people are not experts on that we didn't really think about before.
Yeah. Well, haven't you found that your whole conducting career has been like that? Aren't you an expert in a lot of things you never wanted to be an expert in, like fundraising or marketing?
Oh, sure.
Personnel management.
Right. I mean, when you study for your, I'm sure it's the same with you, when you were getting your degrees, that there was never anything about fundraising. There was never anything about, I don't know, like a parliamentary procedure or marketing or public speaking. I mean, honestly, that's a huge part of it. And, I had my conducting degrees from Indiana and Yale. And then my first job was with Maren Alsop in Colorado, the Colorado Symphony. So she was my first mentor. And anyone who knows Maren knows that, that public speaking part of the job and her community connection is so just like off the charts, her ability in that in particular, in addition to, how she is on the podium. And so for me, I went there and just saw this whole other area that I felt extremely deficient in. That over those 3 years in Colorado was a huge quick study. And that's carried me through all my, all those assistant positions where you're giving, all those pre-concert talks, that sort of research and PowerPoint, none of those things we think about when we're just like, oh, I need to learn all of this basic repertoire and be able to conduct it. And that's all we're thinking about. So yeah, and now, in issues relating to the pandemic. So, that's part of the excitement of the excitement, put in quotes, of the job of always having to evolve with the times, and it's been nonstop, and I expect it to continue that way.
Yeah, well, with any luck, the vaccine will be distributed pretty quickly, and by next fall, maybe things will be more or less back to normal. I can't wait. But I think we've all demonstrated, the whole world, not just the orchestra industry, but the whole world has sort of demonstrated resilience and adaptability. And I mean, we've proven we know how to get through a terrible thing here. And it's not a good thing, but I'm glad that, that the human resilience was on full display in 2020. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We, just as a side note, in these concerts in Dallas, one of the most amazing things happened, which was that, we hired the soloist. There's always some vocal soloist. So we have a soloist. Her name is Ava Mason. Ava Pine is her soprano name. And Ava, a couple years ago, went back to school to become a registered nurse. And when we hired her for this year, it was like January, maybe even December of last year. So people were talking a little bit about something kind of funny happening in Wuhan, and that's all people knew about the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we hired her to be the soloist. And then, of course, everything happened. And, at these concerts, she's been making this speech at the end where she talks about being a registered nurse at New York Presbyterian Hospital, and how, if anything, it has shown her the humanity and strength of people. And when she gives the speech, it's just, every time, it's just absolutely like heart-wrenchingly beautiful and poignant. And the audience always gives this really amazing applause to that speech. And she sort of embodies the human resilience you're talking about, of what we've gone through this year. And, these people who have these 12-hour shifts in full protective equipment, and they're out there on the front lines, and to have one of them singing to our audience has been just amazing. And so I feel like it's a great way for me personally, to experience the end of 2020 and to look forward to 2021. You and I interact a lot on Facebook, so I know, we're both very much looking forward to, I think the whole world knows that 2021 will not be worse than 2020.
I mean,
it just can't.
It can't be. It really can't be.
It can't. I'm saying that to myself.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a beautiful story. It's funny that you say that 2021 can't be worse. 2019 for my family was pretty bad. And it's not too personal to say, but my father was fighting cancer, and just 2019 just sucked for a lot of reasons. And so this time last year, we were all like, 2020 can't be worse than 2019. And then I was talking with my dad recently, and he was like, yeah, this was worse, but he's since beaten cancer. So his 2020 is going pretty well. He's retired and he just stays home all day, and now he's cancer free. And he's like, this is okay for me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's just funny the way things are working. That's a beautiful story about the singer Ava. You say is her name?
Yeah, Ava Pine.
Yeah, great.
Pine tree. Yeah.
Well, Larry, I know that you have more shows to give and things to do, so I'll let you go. But thanks so much for having coffee. It's nice to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cheers.